Good morning, friends. Welcome back. This is CA Devang Kothari. So, continuing with our session, we had started learning cost sheet, and today, first, we will start the format of the cost sheet. I'll give you a format of the cost sheet. This was what we had done till yesterday, till the last session. This is my lecture number 2. This is where I will now start first with the format of cost sheet. I'll give you a format of cost sheet. I need you to copy that down as just a blank format. Then based on that, I'll explain the formats and we'll start solving some questions. Yeah. So first, the format I need you to just copy. Okay, look here then. This becomes your format of the cost sheet. Now, in this format, what is the purpose of the cost sheet and what are we going to do? Well, the first thing, purpose of the cost sheet. Notice, the purpose of this cost sheet format is to identify my total cost. Remember, I told you earlier that in case of costing, there were two types of industry: order based industry and continuous industry. In case of continuous industry, what you had to do was, in case of continuous industry, you calculate cost per unit. How? In case of continuous industry, you had calculated cost per unit by taking total cost divided by total units. Now the question is, what is this total cost? Well, to calculate this total cost, we make the format of cost sheet. So this cost sheet format has the ultimate purpose to identify the total cost. Ultimate purpose of this entire cost sheet format, this long format, is to reach this value here called cost of sales. For my costing subject, in my entire subject of costing, whenever I say total cost, it means this. It means this cost of sales. Cost of sales is considered as a total cost in costing subject. So that this total cost I compare with the sales to get the profit, or on this total cost I add profit and get the sales. Yes, remember that two purpose of costing I had given you earlier. I find the total cost so that I can add a profit and decide sales, or I find the total cost so that I can compare that with sales to find the profit. Whatever, in any case, I need the total cost. This cost of sales is my total cost that we need to calculate. Now, to calculate this total cost of sales, as you see in this format, in this entire format, I have added so many items that you see here. But let me tell you, in this entire format here, technically I have added only 6 items of cost. I can show you which 6 items I have. As such, added only 6 items of cost in this format. Which 6 items? Notice, I have added these 6 items here: direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, then factory overheads. Later I have admin overheads, but admin overheads itself is of two types. We'll tell you what is that later. And I have added number 6, selling overheads. So ultimately I have just added these 6 items of cost, but you see many other items also written in the format here. You see many other items also over here in the format. These other items are either subtotals or some adjustments. Other items that I have given you here are adjustments, like adjustment of WIP or adjustments of finished goods, or these other items might be just subtotals. Look, this format of cost sheet, I am starting the subject with this format because there are certain names you will learn over here which will be required in many chapters further, which will be required in many questions further also. So there are certain names that I teach you here. Like one name you already learnt last time, that was prime cost. Prime cost was the total of all direct items of cost that we already learnt last time. Similarly, there are certain other names also that we will be learning over here. We'll see that. Chalo. First, I will explain all the names in the cost sheet format. I'll give you some explanations about that, and then we'll start with some calculations. Yeah. So notice direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. Adding these three, it gives me prime cost. Prime cost, we said that is the total of all items of direct cost. Yes. On that prime cost, I now add factory overheads. Factory overheads, remember, was indirect cost incurred in the factory. Overheads means indirect cost. Factory overheads means indirect cost incurred inside the factory. Now, prime cost plus factory overheads gives me something called as factory cost. This is the name given, factory cost. Prime cost plus factory overheads, yes, it is named as the factory cost. Now, why is it named as factory cost? Think about it. Say, prime cost are all direct costs. So naturally, all these prime costs are incurred where? They are incurred inside the factory, definitely. Even factory overheads is incurred inside the factory. Why? Because, well, it is factory overheads. We defined factory overheads as the indirect cost incurred inside the factory. So can you notice that all these four items here are all incurred inside the factory? Yes, if all these four items are incurred inside the factory, hence I call them as factory cost. Factory cost means all the total cost incurred inside the factory premises, inside your production, inside your factory premises. Yes, that will be named as the factory cost. Now say for example, just for example, my factory cost incurred during the year in my company is, say for example, rupees 1,20,000. Meaning 1,20,000 rupees I have spent from my pocket in the factory during the year. But after spending that 1,20,000 rupees in my factory, is it necessary that all the production units that I started were fully completed? Not necessary. There might remain some units incomplete. There might remain some units incomplete by the end of the year. Like as on 31st March, whatever cost I have incurred might not be incurred towards completed units. There might be some units which have remained incomplete. Well, for that incomplete units, we have a special term used in costing called as WIP, work in progress. WIP stands for work in progress. It indicates those units which are incomplete at the end of the year. Now during the year, I have say one machine, say this is, I have one machine over here. I insert materials at one end of the machine, I get finished goods at the other end of the machine. But by the end of the year, there might be some units at least some units might be there at the end of the year for which I have inserted materials into the machine, but my finished goods have not yet come out. These units which are still inside the machine will be called as WIP. Now look, regarding WIP, there are many more things we will be learning later in the syllabus, especially in chapters like process costing. But as of now, I'm not giving you more details. As of now, you just need to know what is the meaning of WIP. WIP meaning, remember this, two things. Number one, you remember that these are incomplete units. And number two, you remember that where are they located? They are located inside the factory and inside the machine. Now, if these units are still inside the machine at the end of the year, then during the year, did I sell these units? If these units are still inside the machine at the end of the year, then are these units sold? Not possible. Why not? Because they are still incomplete. They are still inside the machine. How did I sell those units? No, I did not sell those units. Remember, ultimately, you want to reach where? Ultimately, you want to reach here. You want to reach cost of sales. If ultimately you wish to reach cost of sales, meaning cost of those units which you have sold. You want to reach cost of those units which you have sold, you want to reach cost of sales, then naturally incomplete units you have to remove. Hence, look at my format. Hence, my format says that from this factory cost 1,20,000, I have minus closing WIP. Closing means the units which remained incomplete at the end of the year. Say for example, at the end of the year, I have certain units that remain incomplete, and on these incomplete units, listen to this, on these incomplete units, I have already spent say 20,000 rupees on them. On these incomplete units, I have already spent 20,000 rupees on them. So 20,000 is the cost incurred on incomplete units. 20,000 is the cost incurred on incomplete units. I remove that, so what I now get is 1 lakh. 1 lakh indicates the cost incurred on completed units. This 20,000 which I removed is the cost incurred on incomplete units. Why did I remove that? Well, I removed that because the units are incomplete, they are not sold. If they are not sold, I remove that from my cost calculation right now, because I want to reach the cost of the units that I have sold, because profit I will earn only out of the units that I have sold. Yes, so just like these 20,000 rupees was removed, 20,000 was the cost incurred on incomplete units remaining incomplete at the end of the year. But then if these units were incomplete at the end of the year, when will they get completed? Well, if they were incomplete as on 31st March in this year, so next year when I start the year, first thing that will complete in the next year are these incomplete units. I told you where are these units located. These units are located inside my machine. So next year on 1st April when I switch on the machine, the first thing that will complete are the previous incomplete units. Meaning incomplete units of current year will get completed in the next year. Incomplete units of this year will get completed in the next year, and when they will be completed, then they might be sold. Obviously, before completion, they cannot be sold. So they will be sold. When will they be sold? They will be sold probably next year. So in the next year, it becomes opening WIP. In the next year, it will be added as opening WIP. Hence, I get my format here that from the factory cost 1,20,000, I will do add opening WIP less closing WIP will give me the factory cost of completed units. I repeat, from this factory cost 1,20,000, 1,20,000 is the cost incurred in my factory. But out of the total cost that I have spent, 20,000 I had spent on units which remained incomplete. Remaining 1 lakh I have spent on the units which were completed. That 1 lakh is called as my factory cost of completed units. Done? Yes? Okay. Now on that factory cost of completed units, I will now add admin overheads. Admin overheads are the overheads incurred outside the factory, but it is incurred for administrative purpose, routine accounting and admin purpose. Yes. Now, admin overheads can also be of two types: admin overheads related to production or admin overheads related to sales. Now, admin overheads related to production are the admin overheads which are incurred on every completed unit. This is the admin overheads which is incurred on every completed unit. It is incurred on every production unit. But in general, say accountant salary, or say for example stationery costs in the office and all, can I clearly define a relation that accountant salary is incurred only for completed units, is incurred for all the completed units? No, accountant salary is a general admin cost. Any such general admin cost will not be written over here, rather it will be written down here. Down here, the admin overheads that I have written again can be called as admin overheads on sold units, or better, you might change the words. Better, it might be called as admin overheads general. General admin overheads. So, admin overheads might be incurred for production units, might be incurred general. Well, as of now, in this chapter, whenever you are given a question, you will be told in the question that whether it is general admin or whether it is incurred on production units. If it is incurred on production units, you will put that over here. But if it is general admin, you will put that over here. If nothing is mentioned, then you assume it is general admin. I repeat, if admin overheads nothing is mentioned, then you consider it will be general admin comes over here. But if they have specifically mentioned that admin overheads is incurred on production units, based on production, based on completed units, then you put that admin overheads over here. Both types of admin overheads examples might be there. Yeah. Now, if in my company, say for example, admin overheads is 30,000, production related admin overheads is 30,000, then I will add that admin overheads over here, 30,000. This makes my total now 1,30,000. This 1,30,000 will be named as cost of production. This 1,30,000 is now called as cost of production. It indicates the total cost of all the units that I produced. It indicates the total cost of all units that I produced, 1,30,000. Now, out of all the units that I have produced, not necessary that all the units I have sold. You remember, ultimately I need to reach where? Ultimately I wanted to reach where? I wanted to reach cost of sales. Cost of sales means I wanted to reach cost of those units which I have sold. Now, out of this production, say for example, just for example, I say that this 1,30,000 cost of production pertains to say 13,000 units. Assume that I am writing units in my inner column here. Assume that I am writing units in my inner column here. Units I am writing here just for understanding purpose, just to explain calculations to you. Units column that I make over here is not a part of the final answer. It is just for calculation purpose. So 13,000 is the production that I have done during the year. Now all the 13,000 units that I produced, not necessary all of them are sold. Say for example, out of 13,000 which I produced, ultimately I have sold, say I have sold only 10,000 units. Now, out of 13,000 units that I produced, if I have sold only 10,000 units, then where did the remaining 3,000 go? Well, that remaining 3,000 are the units that I produced but I did not sell, meaning that remaining 3,000 will become my closing stock of finished goods. This closing finished goods that you see over here, this closing finished goods basically indicates unsold units. Basically indicates what? It indicates unsold units. In fact, it is just like closing WIP indicates unfinished units. Similarly, closing FG indicates my unsold units. Now, so what I have basically done over here is this, dekho. I say that out of 13,000 units that I produced, 3,000 units were not sold. Out of 13,000 units that I produced, 3,000 units remained unsold. So remaining 10,000 units are the units that I have sold. So this 3,000 which was unsold, I have removed from the units column, but I also need to remove the cost from that column. So tell me, if 13,000 units is costing 1,30,000 rupees, then proportionately what should be the cost of these 3,000 units? Can you do that? Cross multiply. Yes, 13,000 is 1,30,000, then 3,000 should be what? Well, naturally, therefore 3,000 will be 30,000. Simple cross multiply. I hope you know how to do cross multiplication. So from 1,30,000 I remove 30,000, that gives me now 1 lakh. So my cost of goods sold, COGS, turns out to be 1 lakh. What does this 1 lakh indicate? This 1 lakh indicates cost of the goods that I have sold. Please differentiate. This 10,000 here is the units of goods sold, while 1 lakh over here is cost of the units that I have sold. I repeat, 10,000 is the units of the goods sold, while 1 lakh is cost of the goods that I have sold. Why did I deduct that closing FG? Because I wanted to reach sold units. cost of the sold units. So from the total production units here, I remove the unsold units. That gives me the cost of only the sold units. Done. Now these units which are unsold, when will they be sold? Well, they remained unsold at the end of this year. If they were unsold at the end matlab closing. If they were unsold at the end of this year, when will they be sold? Naturally, they will be sold in the next year. Now, if these unsold units are sold in the next year it has to be added. Well, yes, next year it will be added as opening FG. So just like you had in the format earlier, add opening WIP less closing WIP. Similarly, now I have add opening FG less closing FG. Earlier, this add opening and less closing WIP was my adjustment of WIP. Now, similar adjustment add opening FG less closing FG is my adjustment of finished goods. Done? Yes. So add opening FG less closing FG now gives me cost of goods sold. These are the goods that I have sold during the year. This is the cost of the goods that I have sold during the year. But in this cost, still all items of cost are not yet included. There are still certain other items which I will still add, which is general admin overheads will now be added over here, and selling and distribution overheads is also added over here. Now, why am I adding these two items now? Why not before? Because look, selling overheads, the reason is pretty clear. Selling and distribution overheads are the indirect cost incurred for sales and distribution. Now, if selling overheads is incurred for selling and distribution, then naturally it will be incurred only on the units sold. Selling overheads is yes incurred only on the units that are sold. So only after reaching COGS, I will add the S&D overheads. It is incurred only on the units that are sold. So after reaching the sold units, I will add the selling overheads, or in other words, I will add selling overheads only after removing the unsold units, because it is not incurred on the unsold units. Remove unsold units, only then you add the S&D overheads. S&D overheads is not incurred on all 13,000. It is incurred on only 10,000 units that you have sold. Does that make sense? Yes. Similarly, general admin overheads. Well, it is a general cost. General, so it basically does not relate to any units. But because it is a general admin, because it is a general cost, it will be entirely deducted from my current year profit. Think about it. General admin does not relate to any particular units, but it has to be paid out of my profits of the year. Now, profits of the year are earned only from the sold units. During this year, I will earn profit only out of my sold units, because unsold units are not sold. How will they give me profit? Profit I will get only out of the units that I sell. Hence, general costs like these, general costs like this admin overheads will also be deducted from that sold units, will also be considered on that sold units only. Done. So on my cost of goods sold 1 lakh, I will add general admin overheads. Whatever general admin overheads, I add them here, plus selling overheads also I add them over here, will give me my cost of sales. And on this cost of sales plus profit will give me sales, or compare with sales will give me the profit. This will be my general format of the cost sheet. As of now, I have just taken some hypothetical figures over here to explain the adjustment of stock, to explain opening and closing WIP adjustment, and to explain opening and closing finished goods adjustment. Yes, but let me tell you, the most important calculation in this cost sheet format, the most important calculation in this cost sheet format will be this 30,000 that I calculated here. Tell me, as of now in this example, how did I calculate this 30,000? Well, right now it was very simple. All I did was cross multiply. I just compared that 13,000 production units is having total cost of 1,30,000. Therefore, 3,000 unsold units should have cost of how much? Should have cost of 30,000. Why? Because this 3,000 is unsold out of that total 13,000. This 3,000 is the unsold units out of that total 13,000 only. Now, if this 3,000 is out of that 13,000, so naturally for these 3,000 units, it will have the same cost as the cost of those 13,000. Hence, I did this calculation proportionately. But we will be learning certain methods to identify this closing FG valuation of closing stock that I did over here 30,000 could be done by different methods that you might have heard of, methods like you might have heard of Fifo method, LIFO method, weighted average method. Have you heard of these names at least? Yes, you might have heard of that in account subject. Now we will apply that in costing subject. Look, what you might have done in account subject was that you just learnt how to apply these methods. But now in my costing subject, I told you in my previous session also, in my costing subject, I need to give you pure conceptual clarity. So I will not just give you a method how to apply or how to calculate FIFO or LIFO or weighted average, but I want you to understand the pure logic behind these methods. Yes, that I will not explain here. I'll explain that when I solve one question. Right now, the purpose of this explanation was just to make you aware of this format. I hope you understand the format now. Yes, yeah. So this was the full format of cost sheet. Now this format, same format we will apply in certain questions in order to practice some calculations. But let me tell you, this format of cost sheet that I have given you here, this is well a basic format only, but this is the most common format. Most common because most of the ICAI questions, if they come, it will require this format only. Later, by the end of the chapter, I will also add few more things in the format and make this a more detailed format. Right now, this is the basic version of the format with most common items in the format. Done? Yes. Okay. Now, with that, we can start with some questions of cost sheet. You can open your books, come to chapter number 1, question number 1 on page 1.1. We'll start with first question and we'll just put up the values from the question into this format, and within the question itself, within question 1 itself, I will explain you all methods like FIFO method, weighted average methods and all. Done? Yes. Okay. So turn to question number 1 first. You can at least start reading question number 1. And I will first make a format for that question and then we'll start solving the question in that format. For you also can start making a format for question 1, and please do not write in the old format. Leave that as a format. For question 1, you make a fresh format. Done? Yeah. Okay, so now you see this becomes a little more clean format. I have just written short forms for all the items of cost, and all these short forms are like considered almost valid for the exam also. You can also use these short forms, and that will give me more space to show my explanations. So question 1, we'll start off with question number 1. I'll show you also the question over here that will help you to understand and me to explain in a more easier way. This is how the question goes. You're supposed to make a cost sheet showing cost and profit and all. Now, first item, you see that direct material consumed is given rupees 4 lakhs. Okay, we'll start from there. Then direct labor is 40% of direct material cost. Okay, direct expense is 50% of the direct labor cost. So labor is 40% of the material. If material is 4 lakhs, 40% of that 1,60,000 becomes the labor. Direct expenses 50% of the labor. So labor ka 50% will put as direct expenses. Factory overheads is 25% of the prime cost. Look, material, labor and expenses will give me prime cost. 25% of that will put as the factory overheads. Anyways, we'll start off with that. Chalo. So direct material, I'll keep my book over here. You also keep your books open with you. Direct material consumed is rupees 4 lakhs. I'll start from there. Direct labor is 40% of the material cost. So direct material 4 lakhs, 40% of that 1,60,000 becomes my direct labor. As per the question, direct expenses is 50% of labor cost. Labor 160, 50% of that 80,000 becomes the direct expenses. Total of that will give me the prime cost. So total 560 and 80. So that is 6 lakhs 40,000. Plus factory overheads. It says 25% of the prime cost. Now factory overheads is given as 25% of prime cost. Prime cost I have is 6 lakhs 40,000 into 25%, another 1,60,000 becomes my factory overheads. Adding that will give me factory cost as 8 lakhs. Now this 8 lakhs is my factory cost. On that I will have add opening WIP less closing WIP. But chalo, this question 1 is my first question, basic question, starting question. So in this question I have not given any WIP details. So if no WIP details, you can see here, if no WIP details are given, then we will skip that and we'll go further. At least let us finish reading the question. Dekho. Further, if you read in the question, after factory overheads, they have given office and admin expenses, that is admin overheads. Office and admin expenses meaning admin overheads. But notice how it is given. It says rupees 150 per 10 units produced. 150 per 10 units produced. First of all, 150 per 10 units, meaning 15 per 1 unit. That you should understand. 15 per unit, but which unit? It is 15 per unit produced. Now this is an indirect hint given to you, telling you that admin overheads is based on what? Admin overheads is based on production units. This is an indirect hint telling you that admin overheads is based on production units. So this question, admin overheads is not general admin, it is admin overheads based on production. Okay, so we'll put that in production admin overheads. Selling and distribution expenses applied. This becomes your S&D overheads. And it says 500 per 10 units sold. 500 per 100 units, meaning it is 5 per unit. But it is 5 per unit. Which unit? Sold unit. So S&D overheads is 5 per unit sold. You remember that selling and distribution is always incurred on the sold units, always on the sold units. Even if they did not mention your sold word here, still you will assume that S&D overheads is always on sold units. Yeah, you're given opening finished stock. Opening FG you are given 800 units at 85.5 per unit. Closing FG you are given 400 units. But notice, for closing FG your rate of valuation is not given. For closing FG it is at what rate? That is not given. Not given because you have to find that. You have to find that by FIFO method or weighted average method. The question is asking you to make a cost sheet by both FIFO as well as weighted average method. That is what we will be doing. And further, you are given finished goods sold as 16,400 units. Consider this is also units. Finished goods sold, you are given 16,400 units. Profit you are asked to charge is 1/6 of sales. Okay, all this data we will now use in my cost sheet format. So WIP is not there in this question. Like I said, there is no WIP here. So add opening WIP less closing WIP is not there. So makes my total again as 8 lakhs. So 8 lakhs is still my factory cost plus admin overheads related to production. Well, you are given here that admin overheads is rupees 150 for 10 units, meaning 15 per unit. But 15 per unit into what? 15 per unit into units. Which units? Can I multiply 16,400 units here? No. Look, that 16,400 is given as sold units. So for admin overheads here, I cannot multiply sold units. Rather, I need to multiply production units. It is 15 per unit produced. So 15 per unit into dash number of units produced. I need production units over here. But well, production units are not given in the question. Now this will become my first calculation involved in this question. First calculation. Look, this is my first few sessions of the class. So I do not know that what is your level of understanding. I do not know that what is your level of catching up with the calculations. So I will assume as if I'm teaching from very basics, very scratch. I will start everything from pure scratch. So this is one of the very basic mathematical calculation that I show you now. You need production units here. Well, which other units are you already given? We'll see. Dekho. You're already given certain other units, as in you are given opening FG units. Opening finished goods you are given as 800 units. I'll write the units in this inner column here. Consider this inner column indicates units and outer column consider indicates rupees. I told you units column is just for your understanding purpose. It is not a part of the final answer, but it's just for understanding. You can mention and you can leave it there. You don't need to rub it off for the exam. Opening FG, you are given 800 units and they are valued at, valuation is given at the rate 85.5 per unit. Okay. Closing FG, you are given as 400 units. Closing FG is given as 400 units and sold units you are given as 16,400. Sold units are given 16,400. Notice when I wrote closing FG, I have written them in a bracket. Why? Because as per my format, closing FG is supposed to be minus, deducted. Now, well, you have the sold units, you have the closing FG, you have the opening FG. Based on these three things given, can you find production units here? Yes, all you need to do is a reverse working. Look, in my example which I gave earlier, in the earlier example which I gave while explaining the format, in that example Well, in that format, in that example, my production was 13,000 units. Production I had given, closing FG I had given 3,000. So you could find sold units as 10,000. There was no opening in that case. But now I'm asking you reverse. Now I have a question where this 10,000 is given, closing FG is given, then how will you find production units? Simple. All you have to do is reverse calculation. All you have to do is reverse calculation like this. You start from the 10,000 here. On that 10,000, if 10,000 was my sold units, 3,000 was closing FG. Remember, closing FG means unsold units. So from 10,000 sold units, if 10,000 is the sold units, 3,000 was the unsold units, then how do you identify total production units? Simple, reverse working, add them up. Well, that is exactly what I will do over here. My sold units this time is 16,400. 400 units here is unsold units. What will I do? Add or deduct? Yes, it will be added. 16,400 sold units, 400 unsold units. So total units before that I must have got total units that I was having before removing unsold was 16,800. Now that 16,800 was what? That 16,800 was production plus opening FG. From 16,800 minus 800 will give me production units as 16,000. This is how I get my production units here as 16,000. Look, this is the first basic calculation that I am giving you here. Now some of you might feel that, sir, this is so simple. Why are you taking so much time to explain that? Like I said, I don't know your level of understanding. So at least for the first few sessions, I will explain even the simplest of the simplest calculations, even stupidest of the stupidest calculation. Yes, I will explain. Listen, two methods I explain this with. 16,400 is my sold units. If I want to do reverse calculation, like this, then reverse calculation simply means that whatever plus minus sign that I have written here, it will be reversed. In case of forward calculation, if this was add and this was less, then for reverse calculation the sign will become opposite. Whatever was less closing FG, it will be added 400, and whatever was add opening FG, it will be deducted. That is exactly what I did. From 16,400, if I do reverse working, then negative value will be added. It gives me 16,800, and positive value will be deducted. It gives me 16,000. This is the simplest mathematics here. When you do reverse working, every time when you do reverse working, look, reverse working will come at many places in costing. So I give you a general idea here that for all kinds of reverse working, you will change the sign. In forward working, if it was add opening less closing, then in reverse working, you will do add closing and then less opening. Do you understand that? Yes, this was the mathematical explanation, easiest explanation. For those of you who want concept over here, listen to the concept. Concept goes like this, that concept says that if 16,400 are the units that I sold, then 400 are the units which are left unsold. So think, if 16,400 units I need for selling it to the customer, plus another 400 units I need to keep it as my closing stock. So total number of units that I need, the total units that I need will be 16,800. Total units that I need, that I require, will be 16,800. But out of 16,800 units that I require, 800 I already have since opening stock. So how much fresh production I need in this year? Fresh production I need this time is only 16,000. I repeat, out of 16,400 units that I sold, 16,400 I need for selling them. Another 400 I need as unsold units. So total I want 16,800, but out of that 16,800 units that I want, 800 I already have since last year. Opening finished goods I have. So fresh production needed in current year will be only 16,000. Yes, that 16,000 becomes my production units. Now that you have production units, now that you know the production units, I can use that over here. I can use that production units over here to find my admin overheads. Admin overheads was 15 per unit into production units. 15 per unit into 16,000 production units. So 16,000 into 15 gives me 2,40,000 as my admin overheads. I'll put them here. 2,40,000 admin overheads. Look, this reverse calculation was my first important calculation over here. I hope you understood that. Because look, this type of reverse calculation will be required at many places in costing. This is not IPCC level. This is 10th standard mathematics. And for my subject of costing, you will definitely need strong mathematics. This is not even strong. This is simple mathematics. I hope you understand that. Further, 8 lakhs plus 2,40,000 gives me 10 lakhs 40,000. 10 lakh 40,000 becomes my cost of production plus opening FG. You already know. Opening FG are already given 800 units at the rate 85.5. 800 into 85.5. 68,400. Plus 10 lakh 40,000 gives 11,08,400 as my total. From that, now I need to do less closing FG minus closing FG. Now for closing FG, you are already given units of closing FG 400, but what you are not given is the value of closing FG. Now this value of closing FG not given, you have to find. Well, that is where you have two methods to find that: FIFO method or weighted average method. I hope you might have at least heard of these names: FIFO, weighted average. First, I will solve this question as if I'm solving by FIFO method. Next, I will solve the entire question by weighted average method. First, as of now, say FIFO method. FIFO method, what does the word FIFO mean? FIFO means first in, first out. Yes, this is the full form. But I'm pretty sure all of you know the full form. I'm not interested in the full form. I'm interested in the actual meaning of that. Think about it. Think, answer in your heads. Don't answer to me, I can't hear. Answer in your heads, what does FIFO method mean? First in, first out means what, indicates what? Give it a thought. Yes, first in, first out over here indicates that the goods which are produced first are sold out first. Look, maybe in your account subject you might have learned FIFO method as the unit which is purchased first goes out first. Well, here I am not talking about purchasing, I am talking about production. We are talking about finished goods, not material. So in case of finished goods, first in means first produced, first out means first sold. So FIFO method here means that the units which are produced first are sold out first. Well, in my example here, you notice here that I have two types of units that I produce. I have two types of production here. One is these 16,000 units production, and other is these 800 units opening FG. Both of them are completed units. But tell me, these 800 units opening FG, where did that come from? These 800 units opening FG, when were they produced? Well, yes, these 800 units of opening FG, when were they produced? They were produced in previous year. They were produced in the previous year, but they were not sold in the previous year. Hence, they come right now in the current year. While these 16,000 units, which I have written as COP, when were these 16,000 produced? Well, these 16,000 are the ones that were produced in current year, because these are production of the current year. Now 16,000 is my production of current year, 800 was produced in the previous year, and FIFO method says that the ones which were produced first are sold out first. Out of 16,800, which was produced first? Naturally, first what was produced was this previous year units. So if FIFO method says that post production is sold out first, meaning these 800 units, where did they go? These 800 units were sold. Cost of goods sold may GS stands for goods sold. So FIFO method indicates that these previous year units have already gone for sales, are already sold. Now if the previous year units were already sold, then listen to this. If the previous year 800 units are already sold over here, then which are these unsold units? Where did this unsold units come from? Naturally, these unsold units therefore come from current year. These unsold units should be valued at the rate of current year. This is my basic logic behind the FIFO method. Once again, FIFO method says that previous year units are sold out first. If previous year units are sold first, then at the end of the year, what remains unsold will be definitely out of the current year units. So what remains unsold is definitely from the current year. These 400 units that remain unsold are definitely units out of current year 16,000. Look, in my previous example when I explained the format, at that time I did not discuss FIFO method or weighted average method. Why not? Because in that example I had taken opening FG 0. Now if there is no opening stock, then definitely my unsold units are from the current year. But if there is opening stock, I need to discuss a method. Here under the FIFO method, right now say I'm solving this by FIFO method. So right now under the FIFO method, I gave you the logic that as per the FIFO method, first in goes out first. So opening FG units which were from previous year units are sold first. So what remains unsold will be definitely units of current year. So if these 400 are from current year, meaning this 400 is out of this 16,000. And if this 400 is out of 16,000, so the valuation of that 400 will be done based on valuation of that 16,000. Cross multiply 16,000 units has cost of 10,40,000, then 400 units here should have how much cost? Simple cross multiplication I do. 16,000 units has the cost of 1040, then 400 should have cost of what? I will simply cross multiply. I'll do that here. How do you cross multiply? Well, let me also tell you that I don't trust you know the calculations. Cross multiply if I do, so 16,000 is 1040, then 400 should be what? What will you do? We will take 400 into 1040 divide by 16,000 will give you this value. This is called as cross multiplication. 400 into 10,40,000 divide by 16,000 gives me 26,000. So 26,000 becomes my closing FG. 26,000 is my valuation of the closing FG as per the FIFO method. I hope you understand that. So the main logic behind FIFO method is that as per the FIFO method, closing stock is valued at the rate of current year. I will give you notes after the question. I'll make you write down notes regarding these concepts, all these concepts, theories and all. I'll dictate some notes to you. You need to write that down. So right now I'm just clarifying the concept. All that concept will be given to you in the form of classroom notes. Look, during my sessions, my most of my sessions will have such classroom notes to be written, but when I make you write these notes, please do not be lazy in writing the notes, because these notes are something that will make you remember the subject. Look, the subject is pretty huge. By the end of the syllabus, you might forget what you had done at the beginning of the syllabus. Hence, I suggest whatever I explain, I will give it to you in the form of notes. That notes is the only thing that will save you in the final exam. That will save you to remember things in the exam. Yeah. So anyways, right now this was the logic behind FIFO method. I'll give you the notes regarding the logic later. Right now we go further with the calculation. So closing FG valuation I got is 26,000. Deduct that 26,000 will give me cost of goods sold. So 11,08,400 minus 26,000 gives me 10,82,400, becomes my cost of goods sold. Now in this question there is no admin overheads general, so I put a dash, and selling overheads is given in the question. I'll just tell you, selling overheads is given in the question as rupees 500 per 100 units sold, meaning 5 per unit sold. The selling overheads is given as rupees 5 per unit sold. So 5 per unit sold into sold units. Yes, now you have sold units. What are the sold units? 16,400 is the sold units. So 5 into 16,400, 82,000 becomes your S&D overheads. And add that with 10,82,000, 10,82,400 gives you 11,64,000. As 11,64,400, sorry, 11,64,400 you get as the cost of sales. So this cost of sales, I said, was the ultimate purpose of making the cost sheet format. I hope that is clear. So far I have explained two important calculations here. Number one was this reverse working to find the production units, and number two was this cross multiplication to find closing FG valuation here. So one more third working also we need to do over here is that in the question you are also given profit details. The question also mentions that you need to charge profit 1/6 of sales. So chalo, if the profit details are given, then I will not end my cost sheet on reaching this cost of sales. Rather, on this cost of sales, I will add two more lines over here. On this cost of sales, I need to show plus profit. That should give me the sales. Now profit that you are mentioned, the question says that profit you want is 1/6 of sales. Now you might have learned calculations like 1/6 of sales means 1/5 of cost. But let me tell you this, in your account subject or maybe in your school days, you have been doing this shortcut calculation that 1/6 of sales, wherever you see 1/6 of sales means 1/5 of cost. So that conversion, that rate conversion is what you might have done in your account subject. But for my costing subject, yes, that will work. But for my costing subject, I want you to learn a different method. I want you to learn another method, different method, because look, in costing subject, your profit rates will not be always so simple like this. It will not be always so simple as 1/6 of sales, or say 20% of sales, 25% of sales and all. It might be different. Like if I give you profit is 20% of sales, you might simply convert that as 25% of cost. But what if I tell you that profit is 21.9375% of sales? Karo convert. Can you do that? No. It will not be so simple. Hence, I give you a little different method. It is not as such different, it is just a different way of looking at the method. My method is something that I need you to follow every time when you have such profit. When profit is given based on sales, but the sales is missing. Listen to my words. Here, your problem, here the situation is that profit is given based on sales, but the sales is missing. Then you start by assuming sales as 100. Assume sales as 100. Now if the sales is assumed as 100, profit 1/6 of sales. So 1/6 of 100, 1 by 6 of 100 will give you 16.6667. 100 divided by 6, it will give you 16.66666, so on. I will use 4 decimal places. So I assume sales as 100, profit becomes 16.6667. So my cost of sales therefore should become 83.3333. Reverse working. If 100 is my sales, 16.67 is the profit that I want, then 83.33 should be my cost of sales. Now if 83.33 is the total cost, 83.33 is 1164,400, then 100 should be what? Direct cross multiply. I repeat, if 83.33 is 1164,400, then 100 should be what? All I need you to do is cross multiply. So 1164,400, you can just take divide by 83.3333 into 100. You get 1397,281. 13,97,281 becomes my sales therefore, and balance you can put as the profit. Now look, many of you might be habituated to your old method. Many of you might be habituated to your old method that 1/6 of sales means 1/5 of cost. I don't mind, you can follow that method, it will give you same answer. But like I said, that method might not be possible in all circumstances. Hence, I am giving you my own little different method. I need you to follow this method of mine. I need you to follow this new method that I am giving every time when you have such problem. Later, I'll also create one example, one specialized example just to practice this method. What was the method? My method was direct, saying that if profit is based on sales, but the sales is missing, then assume that missing as 100. If profit is based on something and that something is missing, assume that missing as 100. Then do reverse working, cross multiply will give you the answer. Done? Yes. So this question here, I have 3 important calculations you learned. One was this reverse working to find the production units. Other was the valuation of the closing FG by Fifo method. So you follow current year rate. And third was this profit calculation, sales calculation by assuming sales as 100. Yes, these are the 3 important workings here. That completes my question. That completes only Fifo method in my question here. Yes, I'll give you some moment of time. I will crawl back also if you have anything pending to copy. Now you copy everything, and then weighted average method I will explain. Yeah. If you feel that your copying speed is slow, you might pause the video until you copy, then you can continue. Yes, we'll scroll. Okay, going further now, in that same question, I'll also explain you weighted average method. Now, this entire table that I made, this was by FIFO method. Chalo, in that same table, now if I add one more column to say that what will happen when I solve that same question by weighted average method. Well, whether FIFO method or weighted average method, both of them are methods for what? Both of them are method for valuation of the closing FG. Both of them are methods for valuation of the closing finished goods. Now, if they are methods for valuation of closing FG, so in my format here, in this format over here, all the data, that all the things that I have written until this closing FG will still remain the same. Until closing FG, everything will still remain the same. What will change will be only this closing FG here. Yes, so consider everything else still remains the same. I will start writing from the COP here. Notice, for weighted average method, I will make a table again, but I'll not make the full table. I'll just make this part of the table. I'll start from the COP only. You will make the full table, full cost sheet, but I'm just showing this part here. So my cost of production was 10,40,000. Opening FG was the 8400. That made the total as 11,08400. Also, units I will write down for explanation. Cost of production units was 16,000. Opening was 800 units, made the total 16,800. Closing FG was 400 units, so balance was now 16,400 sold units. Remember, closing FG means unsold units. Also remember that my 16,000 production units are units of current year. 800 opening FG units were produced in the previous year. Now the question is, what exactly is weighted average method? Well, you might have learnt calculation of the weighted average method, opening plus current year karke you were doing, but I'm not teaching directly the calculation. Let me give you the logic behind the calculation in weighted average. Then I'll give you the calculation of weighted average. To understand the logic, I'll discuss some examples. Listen to this. I'll create example. I've told you that wherever possible, I'll create some practical real life examples here. So example, imagine I go to a shopping market. I go to a supermarket like say Reliance Fresh. Now in many of these supermarkets, you might have seen they have huge containers having loose food grains. They have food grains like rice and even sugar. They have various containers having these grains inside. Now if I want to purchase some rice, I go to that container. I will, beside the container, they will have some plastic bags. I'll pull up one plastic bag. I'll fill up the bag with the rice, how much I want. I give it for billing. Now, this is how Reliance Fresh are selling the rice from the container directly. Now think about it. At the beginning of the day, their container is full. Say by evening time, by evening say 4 p.m., 5 p.m., the container has become almost empty. Not completely empty, almost empty. Last few kgs are still there in the container. Now before it goes completely empty, the sales executive of the store executive will come and he will refill the container. Now when he will refill the container, he will refill the container by opening a new bag of rice and pouring it into the container. Next customer who comes and picks up rice from the container, think about this. Next customer who comes and picks up rice from that same container, then the rice is sold by the store by which method? FIFO, LIFO or weighted average? Think about it. In this example, the Reliance Fresh store, the rice that they sell from this container, specifically this container only, it will be sold by which method? FIFO, LIFO or weighted average? Well, from the container, if you look at it, it is not FIFO method, it is not weighted average, it is rather LIFO method. Why LIFO method? Because when the store executive will refill the container, tell me, at the time of refilling, was the container already containing some old rice? Yes, there were already some old rice present in the container. Now new rice is added in the same container. So at the bottom of the container there is old rice, at the top of the container there is new rice now. Now if a customer goes to that container, picks up rice from there with a scoop, then which rice will he get? He will definitely get the new rice. He will not pick up rice from the bottom of the container, he will pick up rice from the top of the container. So what he will get will be the new rice. So last, the rice which came in, first that rice will go out. It becomes LIFO method. But well, LIFO method will not be discussed almost anywhere in costing, because LIFO method is not a very good method. Even your financial accounting standards are not suggesting LIFO method is a good one. So we will be covering only FIFO and weighted average methods. This was an example for LIFO method. Chalo, one more example. Say, tell me if you have seen this. Have you been to some hotels? Not restaurant, hotels. Hotels may they have like certain hotels they have morning buffet breakfast. Now during that buffet breakfast, if you have noticed, most of these hotels in their buffet menu they have cornflakes, and for cornflakes they have a cornflakes dispensing machine. It's a type of container, cylindrical container like this, in which at the top of the container there is a lid. You open the lid and put the cornflakes inside, and at the bottom of the container there is a nozzle and there is a knob. If you are a customer, you have to go to the container, you rotate the knob and the flakes will come out from the bottom. But when the container is say less than half, when the container becomes less than half, then the hotel employee will come and refill more cornflakes into the container. Refilling will happen from the top. So look at the difference. This time refilling the container, refilling the container happens from the top, but uh, when you take the cornflakes out from the container, it will be taken out from the bottom. Refilling happens from the top, removal happens from the bottom. So now tell me, after the hotel employee refills the container, after that hotel employee refills the container, now if I rotate the knob and remove cornflakes out of it, which flakes will come out? Old ones or new ones? Well, now which flakes will come out will be the old flakes only, because I am removing the flakes from the bottom of the container. You notice that I'm removing the flakes from the bottom of the container. So now the flakes that will come out will be the old flakes only. After all the old flakes are removed, then the new flakes will start coming out, because new flakes are at the top, old flakes are at the bottom. I am getting the flakes from the bottom. This becomes like FIFO method, because old flakes come out first in, first out. This becomes example for FIFO method. While third example now, weighted average method. I'm already telling it is weighted average. Listen to this. Say say in your vehicles you fill up fuel, you fill up petrol in your vehicles. Say daily you use your vehicles for coming to the classes or going to the college, going for articleship. When do you fill up new fuel in your vehicle? When will you go to the petrol pump and fill up petrol in your vehicle? When it is empty? Well, think again. Do you fill up petrol in your vehicle after it is completely empty? Well, if it is completely empty, you will have to push the vehicle. Push pinder ban jaoge aap. Well, that is not done. What you do is you will fill up petrol in your vehicle when it is about to be empty. When last few liters are left, when the reserve indicator starts blinking, that is when you fill up petrol in your vehicle. Yes or no? When the reserve indicator blinks. Now, you fill up petrol when the reserve indicator blinks. So now when you reach the petrol pump, when you reach the petrol pump, when you are filling up new petrol, does your tank already contain some old petrol? Yes. Now at the time of filling up new petrol, your tank already contained some old petrol. Say it was already containing 2 liters of old petrol. You added another 8 liters of new petrol. So now the total 10 liters is there in your tank. I repeat, you already had 2 liters of old petrol in your vehicle. You added 8 liters of new petrol in your vehicle. Total, your tank now contains 10 liter. Now, when you drive your vehicle, which petrol does your vehicle consume first? Does it first consume old petrol, then new petrol? Does it first consume new petrol, then old petrol? Do you know which petrol does it consume? Well, you don't know. Why not? Why does it not consume first old petrol, then new petrol? Why not? Well, simple answer, because petrol is a liquid. You already had 2 liters old petrol, you add 8 liters new petrol, now there is total 10 liters petrol. Can your vehicle differentiate between old 2 liters and new 8 liters? No. It will get mixed up. It is a liquid. The moment you add new petrol, it will be mixed up with the old petrol, and now when you drive your vehicle, it will consume out of the mixture of 10 liters. This concept of mixture is my weighted average method. Look, the only reason I gave so many examples, the only reason I'm giving so many examples was just to deliver one concept to you, concept that weighted average method is a method where my consumption is happening from the mixture. In FIFO method, my opening units are sold out first. In LIFO method, current year units are sold out first. But in weighted average method, what is sold is not out of the opening units first. What is sold is not out of the old stock or new stock. What is sold is out of the mixture. Weighted average method is this concept about mixture. So now when you drive your vehicle, the fuel that is consumed will be consumed out of the mixture. After reaching home, after reaching your home, the closing stock of fuel remaining in your vehicle will be which fuel? Old fuel or new fuel? Well, after reaching home, the closing stock that remains in your vehicle will also be the mixture of both the fuels. That is my concept of weighted average method, mixture. So listen to this. In my example here, 16,000 units are the units of current year, 800 were the units of previous year. So imagine, just like this vehicle example, I already had 800 old units, plus I produced 16,000 new units, and these new units will be mixed up with the old units. So 16,800 is considered as my mixture of current year plus previous year, opening plus current year COP. Now this 16,800 is my mixture. Now whatever is sold out of that same mixture, and whatever remains unsold, whatever remains unsold over here is also unsold out of that same mixture. So these 400 units which remain unsold, are they 400 out of current year? Are they 400 out of previous year? No, you don't know. Imagine if these units were liquid, then 800 opening plus 16,000 current year, it will get mixed up. So what remains unsold at the end of the year will be out of that mixture. This is called as weighted average method. So if 400 is out of the mixture, then how will you do valuation of that 400? Valuation will be done by again cross multiplication, but this time cross multiply based on the mixture that this 16,800 mixture has the total cost 11,08400, then 400 should be what? Cross multiply. 16,800 is costing 11,08,400, then 400 here should be costing how much? Cross multiply that. 400 into 11,08400 divided by 16,800 gives me 26,390. 26,390 becomes my closing FG valuation. This becomes the valuation by weighted average method. Now look, for weighted average method also I will be making you write down notes regarding this entire explanation logic that I gave. But what I will not make you write is this example. Remember this. Every time when I say weighted average method, think of this example about a vehicle. Think that weighted average method means always valuation done at the rate of mixture. Why mixture? I explained that in this example. I hope that example was pretty clear to you. That fuel tank wala example, that in your fuel tank you had old fuel plus new fuel is added. It now becomes a mixture. It will get mixed up. So now whatever is sold out of that mixture, and after the sold, what remains unsold will also be out of that same mixture. This is your weighted average method. Now that you have closing FG as per weighted average method, you can find cost of goods sold, and you can also complete the remaining things in the format after that. Can you do that? Yes, we've already done the calculation up to sales like this. We've done calculation up to sales like this in Fifo method. Same thing you could do in weighted average method. But chalo, to save time, I don't want you to do that. For weighted average method, I just need you to copy this much, just to understand that closing FG by weighted average method is calculated like this. Yeah. So that is your weighted average method. I'll give you a moment. Please do copy that. Then we continue. Yes, please, should be done writing by now. I'll be going further. If you are not yet done writing, please pause the video, finish the writing, because I will now be continuing. Now, this was the question number one that we solved. Now, based on this working, I have some additional notes to give you. I'll be giving after mostly in every chapter after the first question, I'll be giving you lots of notes regarding the concepts and the clarifications that I gave here, plus notes regarding some new workings that you will face in the remaining questions. Yes, so this question one, in this question, notice this last working that we did over here regarding how did I identify sales and profit. Profit was given 1/6 of sales, but I did not. I told you that don't convert that 1/6 of sales into 1/5 of cost. Instead of doing that rate conversion, I gave you a method of assumption. Instead of the method of conversion, I gave you method of assumption here. That same kind of method, I give you now some more questions to practice that method. Well, that will be my note number one. Notice, first you observe, then you copy down. So in my notes, my note number one, I give you four more questions over here, four more examples just to practice that profit calculation. Yes, simple examples. देखो, example one is a pretty direct example. I'm giving you cost. You need to add profit and find the sales. Cost is given 1 lakh. Cost is given 1 lakh. Profit, I say, should be 20% of cost. Now, if the cost is given 1 lakh, profit is given 20% of cost. So notice, if the profit is given based on cost and the cost is already given as 1 lakh, then how do you find sales? Simple. On that cost 1 lakh, you add the profit, that will give you the sales. So cost is already given 1 lakh plus profit 20,000 will give you sales as 1,20,000. Direct working, no new calculations there. But example number two, notice this time my cost is given 1 lakh again and sales you have to find. Same style. But this time profit is given 20% of sales. So notice this time if my profit is given based on sales, profit is given based on sales, but the sales is missing. What will you do? Profit is given based on sales, sales is missing. This is exactly what we did in question 1. Now, you might say that if profit is 20% of sales, meaning 25% of cost. Well, you can do that. I don't mind. But here in this question, you might be able to convert that 20% of sales. You might convert that 20% of sales means 25% of cost. But every time that conversion might not be possible. Every time such conversion might not be possible. For example, what if I make the question that profit instead of 20% of sales, what if I say that profit is say 21.93% of sales? Can you convert that into cost? No. Look, if the percentage is given very round figure like this, then it will be easy to convert that percentage of sales into percentage of cost. But if that percentage is given some odd figure like 21.9 or just 21 or 23.92, whatever, any such odd figure given, then it will not be easy to make that conversion. Well, for all such cases, your conversion method will not work. But in all such cases, my method of assumption will always work. So how will you apply that assumption method here? Simple. I say that if profit is given based on sales and the sales is missing, then you start by assuming sales as 100. Profit is given based on sales and the sales is missing, you start by assuming sales as 100. Now if the sales is assumed 100, profit is 20% of sales, meaning 20% of 100. 20% of 100 will be 20. And if sales is 100, profit is 20, Then go reverse. What should be cost? Therefore, cost has to be 80. And if the cost is 80, now what you do is cross multiply. Cross multiply that if 80 is 1 lakh, then 100 should be what? 80 is 1 lakh, then 100 should be what? You cross multiply, that should give you 1,25,000. Difference 25,000 becomes the profit. This is exactly what we did in question 1. This was just one extra example for that, and this I need you to follow this method every time when you face such problem. So I request you, look, you might be habituated to that conversion method, but like I told you in my previous session also, I will constantly try to change your mindset. I want to bring you out from the accounting mindset, put you into the costing mindset. For that matter, I need you to start practicing this method. Even if it is simple percentage like 20%, I need you to start practicing this method now. Done? Yes. This was example 2. Same way, example 3, notice. In example 3, I am giving you now reverse. In example 3, sales is given 1 lakh. Profit is given 20% of sales itself. So there is no need for any reverse, or there is no need for any assumption here. Your sales is given 1 lakh, sorry here, and profit is given based on sales itself. 20% of sales is the profit. Directly you can put down the profit. Sales is 1 lakh, 20% of sales, so 20% of sales, so 20,000 becomes the profit, and accordingly reverse will give you 80,000 as the cost. This becomes example 3, but example 4 is again a new. Dekho, this time again sales is given 1 lakh and profit is given 20% of cost. Notice again this time your profit is given as percentage of cost, and the cost is missing. What should I do? Do the same thing, same rule that you did in example 2 above. If profit is given based on cost and the cost is missing and the cost is missing, then assume that missing as 100. If profit is given based on cost is missing, assume that missing as 100. Now if you assume cost as 100, profit 20% of cost, so 20, sales should be 120, and then cross multiply. 120 is 1 lakh, then 100 should be what? Cross multiply. 120 is 1 lakh, then 100 should be what? Should give you 83,333. So in short, I can make a general rule over here. General rule saying that if profit is based on something, listen to this. If profit is based on something and that something is missing, profit is based on something and that something is missing, assume that missing as 100. Assume that missing as 100. Notice that is exactly what I did everywhere in example 2 and in example 4. Both the places, that is exactly what I did. Profit is based on something and that something was missing. Assume that missing as 100. Same way, example 4. Profit was based on something and that something was missing. Assume that missing as 100. Done. This rule is my note number 1 over here. This rule is my note number 1. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a moment. You just copy down these examples. That is note number 1. Scroll. All four examples, please copy. We'll go on. Okay. Now, my note number 2 is regarding two terms that I discuss here. Two terms: direct material purchase versus direct material consumption. What does that mean? The word purchase means the materials that I buy, purchase, while the word consumption means the materials that I use. Consume means use. Now, if you notice in question 1, the wordings used in that question, says that this 4 lakhs, first item here, it says it is direct material consumed rupees 4 lakhs. Consumption is given as rupees 4 lakhs. Now, my question to you is that what if in the question I give you two different values for direct material? What if I give you two different values for direct material? I give you direct material consumption. I give you direct material consumption rupees 4 lakhs, same like question 1, and I also give you direct material purchase rupees 5 lakhs. If I give you purchase as well as consumption both, then which one will you take in the cost sheet? Material purchased or material consumed, which goes to the cost sheet? Well, remember the rule is that what goes to the cost sheet will always be direct material consumption. What goes to the cost sheet will always be the material consumed, not purchase. Always what goes to the cost sheet will be the material consumption. Why? Because purchase indicates the material that I buy. All the material that I buy, I might not use in my production. Ultimately, in the cost sheet, you will be calculating first the cost of production. From that, you will find the cost of sales, COP, and then last you will reach the cost of sales. Now, to find the cost of production, meaning you will consider only the cost which I have incurred to do the production. Will consider only the materials that you have used to do that production. Yes, so out of 5 lakh rupees material that I purchased, if only 4 lakhs is what I have used, consumed, then where did the remaining 1 lakh go? 5 lakhs I purchased, 4 lakh is what I consumed, so remaining 1 lakh, where did that go? Well, naturally, that remaining 1 lakh indicates what? That remaining 1 lakh indicates the material that were left unused. Remaining 1 lakh is the materials that were remaining unused. Unused material will be called as closing stock of raw materials, closing stock of direct materials. Yes, so notice, just like in your cost sheet format, just like in the cost sheet format, you had add opening WIP less closing WIP. WIP stock you are adjusting. This WIP that you adjusted here was a kind of stock adjustment, WIP stock. Similarly, you also adjusted FG stock over here. Add opening FG less closing FG. That was also stock adjustment. Finished goods stock adjustment. Add opening FG less closing FG. Well, same way now over here I will adjust the material stock. I will adjust material stock in the same way. Add opening raw material less closing raw material. Add opening raw material less closing raw material will give me the direct material consumed. So just like unused, right? Just like incomplete units, just like incomplete units meaning WIP was removed here, unfinished goods were removed in the cost sheet format. Similarly, unsold units, unsold finished goods was also removed over here. Similarly, unused material is also supposed to be removed, but that unused material removal I did not show in the cost sheet format. I will show that over here. Due to this, now I can say that the materials which I show in the cost sheet, the direct material which I show here in the cost sheet has to be which direct material? It has to be the direct material consumed. The direct material which I show in the cost sheet has to be the direct materials consumed. Yes, this becomes my note number 2. For note number 2, you need to also know how to calculate that direct material consumption. I start from purchase, add opening raw material less closing raw material will give me consumption. This you might have already learnt somewhere in your account subject. This is just a repetition. Chalo, what if for the purchase material I have also incurred some transportation cost, some kind of transportation cost, then in my direct material consumption I will also add, look at my full format. My format will then go like this: purchase plus purchase expenses. Purchase plus purchase expenses, add opening raw material less closing raw material will give me consumption. In fact, if there is also some material scrap that you are given, like I purchased material and it was delivered in some carton boxes, after I purchase, after I receive the material, I shift the materials into my own container. Now what will I do with those empty carton boxes? Now what will I do with those empty boxes? Empty boxes I will give it to the scrap dealer. Bhangar mein de diya. Now that scrap dealer Pasti wala will pay me some scrap value. That scrap value, what I get is scrap value that I got from material purchase. Yes. Well, that will be deducted over here. The scrap value that I receive from materials, not a scrap, sorry. The scrap value which I receive from materials will be deducted over here. This makes my full format to reach the material consumption. I'll explain again. Purchase plus purchase expenses. Purchase expenses like what? Purchase expenses like say carriage inwards. Purchase expenses means any cost incurred on the material until the material reaches my factory gate. Remember this. This is a basic principle throughout my costing subject, that any cost that I incur on the material until the material reaches my factory gate, all that will be considered as purchase expenses. All that will be added to my material purchase here. All that will be added to material purchase like this. Any cost incurred on the material until the material reaches the factory gate will be considered purchase expenses, and it will be added to my purchase over here. So purchase plus purchase expenses, add opening less closing material minus the scrap generated from material, if any, given in the question, will give me consumption. Question 1, you were already given consumption ready made, so I took that as it is. But if in any question, if consumption is not given, instead some of these other things are given, then you calculate consumption like this and put that in your cost sheet format. Done? Yes, this is my note number 2. Now for that note number 2, this was the calculation part. Before or after you copy this calculation, I also need you to write down some notes. At whichever places some notes are needed, I might either write the notes on screen or I might dictate them. Right now I'm dictating some lines to you. Copy that along with this format. Yes, first you write down the dictation that I give you. Please start writing. It is note number 2. Give the heading first like this, that note number 2, direct material consumption. Under that, write down first point. The direct materials mentioned in the cost sheet. The direct materials mentioned in the cost sheet. The direct materials mentioned in the cost sheet must be direct material consumed. Must be direct materials consumed. Must be direct materials consumed, not direct material purchased. Not direct material purchased. Not direct material purchase. Second point. Second point. Any cost incurred on material. Any cost incurred on the material. Any cost incurred on the material purchased. Repeat, any cost incurred on the material purchased until that material reaches the factory gate. Until that material reaches the factory gate. Repeat, any cost incurred on the material purchased until that material reaches the factory gate. Until that material reaches the factory gate. Will be added to the material cost itself. Will be added to the material cost itself. Will be added to material cost itself as carriage inwards. As carriage inwards. Will be added to material cost itself as carriage inwards. Done? Yes. Now please copy this format. You don't need to mention these values here, just the format you copy. Yes, done. Okay. Further, note number 3 and note number 4 will be regarding FIFO and weighted average method explanations that I give. So, note number 3, give a heading like this. Heading as FIFO method. And so this time I'll write down, you copy the screen. And then similarly, note number 4 will be for weighted average method. I'll dictate also this time, chalo. It means that the units sold are sold out of the mixture. It means that the units sold are sold out of the mixture of current year COP plus opening FG. Hence, what remains unsold as closing FG will also be out of the same mixture. Will also be out of the same mixture. Thus, closing FG is valued at the rate of this mixture into bracket, that is current year COP plus opening FG. Now, calculation is done by cross multiply. Calculation is done by cross multiply based on total. Calculation is done by cross multiply based on total. So these are my basic rules for FIFO method, weighted average method. Now notice, FIFO method, weighted average method, the main core concept that I gave you here will be required in certain other chapters also. Notice, in this chapter, I applied FIFO method, weighted average method for the valuation of closing FG. Well, we will also apply FIFO weighted average later for valuation of WIP, later also for valuation of materials in different chapters. But at all those places, the main concept behind FIFO method weighted average still remains the same. Concept still remains that under FIFO method, my closing stock is valued at the rate of current year, and under weighted average method, my closing stock is valued at the rate of mixture. Yes, this is the main core concept behind both the methods. You can underline that here, that under FIFO method, my closing is valued at the rate of current year, and under weighted average method, closing is always valued at the rate of the mixture. And what does mixture mean? Mixture means current year plus opening. Yes, can you remember that? Yes, these are the basic concepts about FIFO and weighted average, which will apply at many other places also. In fact, I also suggest you one more thing. Do this in the format that I gave you earlier, this blank format that you might have made earlier. In this format itself, I want you to mention this. Look how am I mentioning. In this format itself, I need you to mention this, that you put a tick on COP here. COP is the COP of current year. You put a tick on that and write down that this is for FIFO method. Meaning, if I ask you to do valuation by FIFO method, then the cross multiplication will be done based on this COP. But if I tell you to do calculation by weighted average method, then you do cross multiplication based on what? Based on COP plus opening, that is based on this total. So in the format, put a tick on this total and write down beside that weighted average method. So this tick mark shows, this tick mark that you do will show that COP is the base. COP is the base for calculating closing stock by FIFO method, and this total value, whatever you might have here, will be the base for calculating closing stock by weighted average method. Done? Yes, these are some core concepts here. Okay, now that covers my basic concepts about cost sheet. Based on this, I need you to try two more questions. I will be discussing those questions in class, but before I discuss, I suggest you give it a try. Look, costing is a subject that you cannot learn by just copying from the board. You need to think for yourself. I told you on the first session, in my first session also, that I will induce you to use your logic part of the brain. Every time I don't want you to just sit and do copy paste from the screen, but I need you to give it a thought also. So occasionally, in most of chapters, many chapters, what I will do is one question I will explain, I'll give you some concepts and some other notes with that, based on which second question, third question, first you give it a try, then I will discuss on screen, you compare your workings with my workings. Done? Can do that? Yes. This was question number 1. Question 2 and question 3 I want you to try. But look, these two questions are not exactly the same. If it was exactly same, then there is no then there is no meaning of asking you to try that. They will have some new things there. Some of the new things, chalo, I will show you, because you should not get stuck up for that. Look at question number 2. In question 2, you will notice point number B. What you are given is purchase of material. You are not given consumption. Well, that is why in point number A, you are given opening and closing stock of raw material. Can adjust that to find material consumption. This time I have also given you opening and closing WIP. I had shown you that in the format, how to adjust that. What was the format? You see that in the format. Also, you are given carriage on purchases, you are given sale of scrap of raw material. All that now you know. We saw that in note number 2. Yeah. Further, some new words that you see here. You see one new term here called works overhead. Well, you need to remember this, memorize this. The word works overhead is another name for factory overheads. The word works means factory. Works overhead is another name for factory overheads. Done? Yes. Further, in that you are given admin overheads 12 per unit produced. It is same like question number 1. And other things I need you to try. Please do try question number 2. Also question 3, I want you to try. Question 3 will involve certain reverse workings. Telling this to you now itself, it will involve some reverse workings. Also notice in question number 3, on the next page, look at this general and admin expenses. This is the question where your admin overheads, this is basically admin overheads. But notice this time your admin overheads, is it admin overheads related to production? No, the wordings clearly say that it is general. So consider this as general admin, and you see in your format that where should you put that general admin. Yeah, try these two questions, question 2 and question 3. I will be discussing them in my next session. Yes, next session I will discuss both the questions and I will explain and will also get the answers. But before that, I need you to at least give it a try. Done? Can do that? Yes. Look, at IPCC level, at intermediate level, what I expect from you, I already told you in my first session that what I expect from you is to use your logic part of the brain. Yes, you will need lots of efforts. Intermediate, CA intermediate exams is not a joke. You need to give tremendous efforts. Hard work is the key. Yes, chalo. Just to conclude the session, today I have a short story for you. Yes, our sessions will be generally between 2.5 hours. Last session was just 2 hours, so this session I might extend a little beyond 2 hours. I have one short story for you. Listen to this. There was a very rich sheikh in Dubai, and just like every other sheikh, he had a huge collection of cars, all the swanky expensive cars he had. And he had recently purchased one particular car, say a Ferrari. He had recently purchased one Ferrari, and he was very fond of this Ferrari. He was very fond of this Ferrari. He was using that pretty often. Now, 6 months after the purchase, that car started creating some problem. 6 months after the purchase, the car started creating some problems. So anyways, it was 6 months. So he thought of giving the car for servicing. He sent it to the service station and told the service station guys that there is some particular noise coming from the engine. Please do check that. I don't like that noise. Now, he had given the car for servicing, first service. Like all of you might have also noticed that when you give your vehicle for servicing, especially first service, well, frankly, the service station guys don't do anything at all. They will just wash the vehicle and give it back to you. As such, not much things that they do. Same thing happened with the Sheikh. The service station guys just cleaned the vehicle, washed the vehicle, did some other oilings and all, and gave it back. When the Sheikh used the car, he noticed that the noise which he complained is still there. The noise had not gone away. The noise was still coming. So he called up the service station guys and he scolded them very badly. Naturally, he was the Sheikh and he had a very powerful image in the country. He scolded the service station guys, thrashed them badly that I told you there is this particular noise. Why didn't you get it solved? Now he told the service station guys that now you come and pick up my car, solve my problem and get it back. Naturally, the service station guys will oblige. They came to the Sheikh's palace, they took the car, they started searching where the noise is coming from. Now, they searched a lot, but they could not find where is the problem coming from. They could not even find where, in fact, these service station guys could not even hear the problem. That will make the Sheikh even more furious. The Sheikh felt it as an insult that I am telling you there is no noise coming. You are telling there is no noise coming. That is an insult to me. Now the Sheikh was very furious. He even he told them that do whatever you have to do. You have to get this problem solved. So the service station people, they called up their head office. They called up their head office, say Ferrari. I think it's an Italian company. They called up their head office in Italy and they flew in engineers from Italy. Automobiles engineer from the head office came to Dubai and these engineers, company ka expert engineers, designers also looked into the car, but they were also not able to find the problem. They were also not able to find the problem, not able to satisfy the Sheikh. Now the Sheikh was absolutely furious. Now the Sheikh was absolutely furious because now it was not just a question of getting the problem solved. It was more like a question of his ego. It was a question of his ego that Salah, meri gaadi mein awaaz aata hai, it's not done. So the Sheikh made a worldwide announcement. Puri dunya mein declare kiya, announce kiya that whomsoever thinks that he is smart enough to solve my problem, I give you open invitation. You come and solve my problem. If you are able to solve this noise in my car, then I will give you any money that you want. Muh manga inam. I'll give you muh manga inam. ऐसा announcement किया. So naturally, once this worldwide announcement went off, different parts of the world, different engineers started coming in. Australians, Americans, other Italian engineers, all these different engineers started coming in and tried to solve this problem. But none of them could solve that problem. Yes, Indian भी आएगा, Indian last में आएगा, hero last में आता है. But none of these engineers could solve the problem. Finally, an Indian called. Finally, one Indian called the Sheikh's office and said that I can solve your problem. He was also called to Dubai. Now this Indian, he was not an expert engineer like those all suit boot wale foreigners. He was a simple mechanic. He had learned out of his experience. And he went to the Sheikh's palace. And the car was parked in the middle of a ground. The Sheikh was sitting at one side of the ground. And all those foreign engineers, suit boot wale engineers, they were sitting on other side. When this guy entered the premises, he was a typical mechanic type guy, not a specialized engineer with those shabby clothes of the mechanic. When he entered the premises, all those suit boot wale engineers started laughing at him, thinking that ki ye to aisa phate kapdo wala ye kya karega. Thinking that what will this guy be able to do? They started laughing at this Indian. But this Indian was very confident and very smart. He went to the car, he opened the hood of the car, the engine compartment of the car, and he did some looking inside. After a while, he just removed one small hammer from his toolkit and he tapped the engine at some place 2-3 times. He tapped the engine at some place 2-3 times, then again scratched his head and put the hammer back, closed the bonnet of the car, and he told the engineer and he told the driver to start the car. Now, when he closed the bonnet of the car, all those foreign engineers again started laughing, thinking that isko engine mein kuch samajh hi nahi aaya. But then he told the driver to start the car. The driver started the car and surprisingly, the noise was gone. The noise was absolutely gone. The Sheikh was very happy. He stood up from his place, came to the car He told the Indian that just wait, let me check the car. He sat into the car and he went for a drive. He came back after 15-20 minutes, checking it for 15-20 minutes that it was pretty good, no noise was coming. Now he was absolutely happy. He was so impressed, so happy with this Indian guy. गले लगाया उसको and बोला that कि मांगो जो मांगना है. This Indian, he was, as you can now see, he was very smart. He got the problem solved. Yes, he was very smart, but as most of us Indians are, he was very greedy. He was very greedy. When the Sheikh said that mango jo mangna hai, this Indian, he asked a very huge amount. Of course, no, he didn't ask for the car itself. वो कार लेके कहाँ दुबई से यहाँ इंडिया रजिस्ट्रेशन में प्रॉब्लम हो जाए. What he asked for a bill amount of say $10 lakh. He asked for a bill amount of $10 lakh. Now, when this Indian said that yeah, you give me $10 lakh, the Sheikh thought it was like a pretty huge money. The Sheikh had expected that what he has done. Sheikh thought that उसने आके किया क्या है, बस हथौड़ी मारा, थोड़ा हैमर मारा है, बस that's it. So the Sheikh was pretty skeptical that कि इसको इतना सारा पैसा कैसे दे दूं. The Sheikh tried to be a little smart. He asked this Indian to give an itemized bill, item-wise bill. You know, when you give your vehicles for servicing, and if the service station guys quote a very huge amount, you will ask them that कि इतना बड़ा amount कैसे? Why such a huge amount? You will ask them to give item-wise cost. That how much is the cost of which item of work. Same way, the Sheikh also asked this Indian to give an item-wise bill. But the Indian was very smart, more smarter than the Sheikh. The item-wise bill that the Indian gave, chalo, I'll show you the item-wise bill that he gave. The itemized bill that the Indian gave appeared like this. Say a properly drafted item-wise table he gave. The itemized invoice had a table like this. Particulars and, okay, not rupees, dollars. First item. Hitting the hammer. Well, only $1. Second item. Knowing where to hit it. Well, knowing where to hit that is $9,99,999, making it a total of $10 lakh. Well, moral of the story. Think about it. Moral of the story. What should be the moral of this? Well, no, it's not that you should know where to hit the hammer. Moral of the story is that smart work is always more valuable than hard work. Smart work, yes, will always be more valuable. You see that here, smart work, knowing where to hit is always more valuable than the hard work. But chalo, I have an extended moral for the story from my side. One extended moral. Yes, smart work is more valuable than the hard work, more rewarding than the hard work. But in order to do that smart work, you have to be smart. And to be that smart, you will need lots of hard work. You will need lots and lots of hard work, all the things that we have been doing. Yes, trust me, for your CA exams also, same things will apply. Look, CA exams are not difficult, but it is very lengthy. Your CA syllabus is not at all difficult. Anyways, not difficult if you attend my classes. Yes, I'm not bragging, it's a true. It's not difficult, but it is quite lengthy. And for that matter, you need lots of hard work. You need to give tremendous amount of hard work now so that you can do smart work in the exam. Yes or no? To do that smart work in the exam, you will have to give tremendous amount of hard work now. Well, during all my sessions, I will keep giving you some homework. I'll keep telling you to revise things and all. Please keep doing that hard work, because my target is that the day when I finish costing in the video sessions, within 5 days after that, your costing subject should be over. Keep a target like this. Keep a target that the day when I finish costing in class, within 5 days after that, your costing subject should be done. Yes, and for that matter, all you have to do is just keep following exactly what I tell you in class. Yes, so by the time I finish costing in the video sessions, within 5 days after that, your costing subject should be done. And when I say your costing subject should be done, meaning classwork, home assignment, theory, everything should be done. Yes, please keep that target. If you are watching my video classes, please don't watch that as if you are watching a movie. Sit on a desk, on a table, not on the sofa and not on the bed. Sit on a table with the book and the laptop against you, and put the headphones so that others around you are not disturbed, and please dedicatedly do the calculations which I tell you to do. Yes, otherwise there is no meaning of studying. Yes or no? Yes. And just by attending the class will not make you learn the subject. You need to give your self efforts also. Yes, I will not ask so much efforts from your self side. I will just ask you some revisions and maybe some practice calculations like I told you today. Yes, please do keep that dedicated efforts going. Only thing needed for your CA course, you don't need to be like utterly very brilliant to finish CA, but what you need is consistent efforts. I need you to give consistent efforts on a daily basis until the day of your exam. Yes, occasionally I'll keep telling you about this consistent efforts. Right now, this is just the second session, so I'll not load you more with the thrashing and all, but all I need from you is that consistency in you, that daily basis pay. Please do keep studying. Yes, as of now, I'm not giving you much homework. I'm just giving you the work to practice question 2 and question number 3. Do try them. We'll discuss them in my next session. Done? Yes, that's all for now. See you in the next session. Thank you very much.